And it's cool. I mean, you know, you guys have seen me. I throw people out. I do that. If you don't want to be here, just don't come. But I don't know why you're paying. Yeah.
Do we have one more test and then the final?
Just a test.
Just one test?
Yeah. If that's cool with you all. I mean, I'm happy to do a project on top of that test. You can opt out of the third test if you have hit 2 now below 70. I'll give you a paper.
But if you have, like, say if you have B average, you still take it to rise.
If you have a B average, please do not come to me and say, I'd like to write the paper.
I'm talking about the third test.
What about?
Test everyone takes it.
Anybody at this point who's taken test 1 and test 2
That's below 7.
then they should come talk to me, because I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt, and believe me, I know how little truth there is to the statement, that maybe these people just don't take tests well the way that I do it, so it seems fair to offer them an alternative. That alternative, by the way, is a 10-page paper, right? It's not a lot of fun. And, yeah, okay. Can you get, dude, that somebody didn't take the test for some reason? Alfred, were you at South by Southwest? I was there. I wish we could have had a non-alcoholic beverage together. What? On the what? To perform. Well, who was anybody at South by? No? You were. You were there. Did you have a good time? Did you come see my panel? I'm sorry? Oh. You music business people, I think South by is probably not a bad thing to go to. So we had a big vote last night, huh, Coates? What do you think? What was the vote for those of us that don't know? For what? The bill for? For what? Yeah. For what? Healthcare. There we go. Yeah, Medicare is a specific thing. Yeah. How many people are happy this bill passed? Wow. How many people are unhappy it passed? How many people have no idea what I'm talking about? Yeah. Coach, would you like to explain what this bill is?
This bill is going to insure $32 million for everyone that take effect in 10 years.
And what's that?
It's going to take effect in
10
10 years.
years? I don't think that's right. Is that correct? Yes? I'm sorry? 4 years, yeah. No, this will go into effect faster than that. Anybody want to comment on it? Anybody feel very strongly one way or the other about it? Yep. Drug companies win. How so?
Well, it changes the way that they don't have to lobby somebody on Capitol Hill.
Okay.
Some obstacles, get rid of some obstacles, but at the same time, it encourages more fiscal accountability and responsibility.
Okay.
So it's kind of, but more or less, it's still a win for drug companies.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
I have a question. What qualifies you to be approved for this?
But I don't, I'm certainly not an expert on this. I think everybody's approved for it. I think a big part of this was that certain people were angry that people with pre-approved preconditions, in other words, you'd had a stroke, you'd whatever, couldn't get health insurance, right? So a lot of this is to try and make it more applicable to people. It allows kids to stay on mom and dad's plan up until age 26, which is probably not a bad thing for you guys. And there are a bunch of other things that make it more sweeping. So I think it's less about how you get approved and more about, well, look, now everybody's going to kind of get it. I mean, that was the goal. Now, there have been lots of trade-offs and everything else. And it puts us more in line with other countries like Canada and France and all that. Now, see how that works out. Those that are opposed to this bill are saying it makes the United States what? Socialist. Why? Why are they saying that? You just, Coates, go on ahead. What's that?
Like, if you in the bill, you're not going to choose your doctors and whatever the doctors, giving control of,
Who's paying for it, Coach?
doctor.
Yes, but eventually who does it filter through to? Government, right? So as you guys just learned, or some of you did, with socialism, you have sort of this central allocation of resources. Somebody sits in the middle and disseminates the stuff to people. So they're saying that the United States is now sitting in the middle, and rather than being a free market exchange where I'm a patient, I'm going to go find myself a doctor, the government's going to do it. Now that's not quite an equal analogy, because right now, is it really a free market? Because you've got HMOs, you've got all these other things that have sort of sat between me, the patient, and me, my doctor. Now, why we couldn't get rid of those and make it a more fair exchange, I don't know. But one point against that would be the social safety net thing. It's easy for me to say I make a decent living, I should just be able to go into a free market and pick and choose. Somebody that doesn't, they shouldn't be denied health care. I think that that's a reasonable sort of assumption, right? We'll see. Oh, this is timely. Simon, what are the characteristics of different social networking sites?
It says they did a study.
Uh-huh.
To see what type of people go to music sites.
Okay.
People that are on MySpace
Yeah.
tend to be more interested in music, and people on Facebook and Twitter seem to be more interested in information and information to use.
Interesting. How many of you all use MySpace with any regularity? You're embarrassed about it too, huh? You what? Sure. But nobody goes on MySpace to like social network, right? We do that on Facebook. I don't know who uses MySpace. Peter asks, I guess. Oh, look at this. Mario. You apparently, where are you, Mario? You apparently do not agree with this bill, unless this is not you editorializing here. You start, or your article starts, America has just witnessed an unconscionable abuse of power underlined.
I just thought that was interesting. It was on Drudge Report. I don't know if you guys know.
On what? Drudge Report? Okay. So you cut and pasted this from Drudge Report, or is this your point of view?
Combination of both.
So what's your opinion? What did you add to this? It looks pretty of a cloth to me. I don't see a lot of editorial.
No, this is Drudge Report.
So it was just cut and paste.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. So what do you think there, Mario? And let's avoid lying, guys. If you haven't figured that out, I'm not real keen on it. I'll chalk this up to an honest mistake. I'm not saying you were lying, but let's just make sure we don't. So what's your opinion here? So you did not say America has just witnessed an unconscionable abuse of power underlined. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I read it. I just thought it was interesting. He raised taxes. Obama got his way. He's got his Democratic candidate.
I'm sorry?
He just has a Democratic hold on everything.
So you don't agree? You don't agree with this?
No, I mean, I do, and I don't know. I just thought it was interesting to show.
Sharon, PepsiCo to focus on healthier foods, cut salt. Sharon? Hi. Is this true? Pepsi.
Yeah, because they sell like junk food products as well.
I don't know if they describe them as junk food products.
No, but the article did.
So what products are they cutting salt from? I'm sorry?
They're like chips and, so I don't know what they were called.
Let's see. This side of the room's kind of letting me down. Hamza. Walmart suffering a rare slump, fights back on prices. What is that? What's going on there?
Walmart, their sales dropped 2% from last year, and they are saying that it's mostly because people are, instead of going to Walmart and buying a lot of food, they're just relying on like discount stores and just like
Is Walmart not a discount store?
Walmart
Hmm.
is it's pretty big to be a small discount store.
Pretty big to be a small discount store?
Well, okay, they have cheap products,
Mm-hmm.
but when I say discount store, I mean like
What would you define as a discount store?
a corner store, gas station.
Walmart is absolutely the definition of a discount store. Walmart, Best Buy, Costco, those are big box retailers that compete based on low prices, right? Would you rather shop at Langenstein's? You know Langenstein's? Do you know Langenstein's? Would you rather, these small kind of local stores tend to have, the C store tends to have much higher prices than Walmart, right? I'm sorry? Family Deli? Family Dollar, yeah. Apparently the Google China thing was top news. Oh, Gracie, what drives your best salespeople? Hi, Gracie.
It said that some of them, some of the salespeople that like get discouraged from like their old jobs, they need to be like encouraged and stuff. But also, some of the things they listed were,
Be transparent,
yeah, be transparent.
hold yourself accountable, and respect the role. What does that mean? What's be transparent mean, you think?
Like I think it kind of means like not just being like one type of person, but like just to sell a product, you kind of need to like apply yourself and like relate to different types of people.
That's what transparent means? Do I have another idea what be transparent might mean? Yes.
I think it's one side you can see people clearly, and the other side you can't. Are there both?
I'm sorry?
Personability, getting rid of transaction.
Transparency does reduce transaction costs, but what does be transparent mean?
To just keep every like business action open to the public and show exactly how you're practicing all your business.
How about be honest? Is that okay? This is a good point as we lead up into what we're going to be talking about. Being transparent means here's who I am, here's what I'm selling. If you want what I'm selling, you have the information that you need to make an informed decision. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to try and be non-transparent and hold stuff back. You can't see through me, right? Why does this matter now? Why have things changed where we have to put an emphasis on transparency, whereas before, yes?
The internet.
What do you mean, but you're absolutely right. What about the internet?
Because now you can go on and like read reviews of other customers who have, had
And why would these customers put these reviews up?
to let everyone else be aware
Why would they do that?
because they have the ability to.
They do have the ability to, but why would we have the ability to do lots of things that we don't do? Why would one do that? Why would one take their time to do this? No, go ahead.
Well, I've never have, so I don't.
You never have. Who's posted an online review for anything? Who had their hand up that wanted to answer the question? Yeah, why?
Just to, like, if you feel really strongly about it, either like you like it, you would recommend it to somebody else, or if you really hated it, then you wouldn't recommend other people buy it.
Why? Yes.
Because you have emotional attachment.
Oh, well, that's good. Now we're thinking. Yes, why? What's that?
Increase mediocrity.
The internet shines a bright light on mediocrity. Why? Feel part of a community. How about the fact that we're sort of hardwired to share, right? We as a people are predisposed to share stuff. Give me an example of something that I can share with you that does not take anything away from me, but benefits the person with whom I'm sharing. Information. It's probably the only thing. If I've said this before, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it again. The reason the music business is in the state that it's in is because music went from a tangible thing that when I said, here, take this CD, you have my CD, and then later on when I'm looking for my Clash CD, is that okay? What would you prefer? Management CD? Kings of Leon CD? Diana Krall CD? What's that, Taylor Swift CD? How about Kenny G CD? What would you prefer? The Dead Weather CD. So when I'm looking for my Dead Weather CD, I go, oh, but I don't have it. Now I don't have something, you do, so I don't want to necessarily share that. On the other hand, I have my Dead Weather MP3 on my computer. Bam! You have my Dead Weather music. Who else does? Me. It cost me nothing in an economic sense of the word. It didn't even really cost me time. Why? What's the economic term? Close, close. Cost is right. There's a word before. Opportunity cost. If there was a lot of time, if I had to take that MP3 and compress it into something, upload it, and I was on a dial-up and it took me an hour to send the thing, I probably wouldn't do that. That went away. How long does it take us to zap an MP3 to somebody? Nothing. No time. So there's literally no friction to sharing music. No transaction cost. No financial cost, no opportunity cost. It's purely information. And when I share that with you and you like it, I feel good because I am a what? A maven. And I have this impulse to do this, right? You feel good because you got something you didn't have. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why the music business is so fucked. We went from a thing that when I didn't have it, I was lost something, to stuff, information. Somebody have a hand up? Yeah.
Why are people, I mean, there are still companies that, I mean, like iTunes is kind of an exception, but there are still retailers that are still trying to sell music for money, and I just don't get why. Because you can get it for free. Just like, with the exception of iTunes, I don't really see another successful business that's doing that.
Well, no, I mean, it sort of makes sense. I mean, it's interesting. The question is far more interesting than the answer. The answer is because that the business model is still based upon this transaction for what they're perceiving as a scarce good, which is no longer scarce. That record companies, that others still perceive of music as something that has inherent value because it's scarce, and there are copyright laws that support this. But the question is the right one. Why are still people doing it? Because it doesn't really work. Now, iTunes works why, given everything I just said?
They have a giant catalog?
No.
Maybe? No.
Why does iTunes work? Easy. It's fast. It's easy. Even what I just said about how easy it is to zap something over, peer-to-peer, that kind of works. If I'm just going to email you a song and kind of do that, it's playing some sort of musical chairs up there. But if I'm looking for a whole album or whatever and I go to whatever torrent site, there's a good opportunity, good chance that it may not work, that the files will be corrupted, that I'll get a virus, that I will, the song titles will be screwed up, whatever. And so that gets into opportunity cost. My time is more valuable than the $10 I pay to iTunes to download something that I know will work. Right? I'd rather pay $10 than take the time to go around and steal stuff. Now, that works for me because $10 doesn't mean that much to me. To you guys, $10 is a big night out. So the time, your time is not worth as much as the $10. You'll sit there all day long rather than studying. I'm going to download this booger if it takes me all night because I'm saving $10 that I can go buy a delicious 12-pack of PPR with, right? PBR. So the key is that we're predisposed to share stuff. And so when we get into these ratings things and we get into all of the stuff where we wonder why would we do this? Why would we be sharing things? It's because it makes us feel good when we can give something that improves somebody's life without it having a negative impact on our own life. And that is really where we will start my little lecture here, if I can find it. What's the worst thing your parents can say to you? I'm disappointed in you. You get why I'm mad today? I'm not supposing that I'm like your parents or anything, but the reason, if you sense my frustration, is because I'm a little disappointed. It's okay, I'll get over it.
Someone last week turned in a pink current event, but it didn't have the name on it. So if you don't want to risk losing a grade, come see me after. Make sure I get solved.
Also, whoever walked in late, make sure you pick up your test, or that will be bad. All right, so on the syllabus, we are on to marketing. And we're on, I think, I forget what it says on the syllabus, but I think we're into like the structure of business and everything. But I want to take this sort of aside. Make sure you read in your textbook for next time, and I guess the time thereafter. I know we got spring break coming up, or Easter, whatever it is. And then I think I'm going to show the Enron movie for 2 classes, so you'll have a little break. But I'm going to test on that Enron movie. Because I want to talk about this. I may skip through some of it. This is a big buzzword, and it kind of puts the period on the marketing thing. This is fodder for the test. I will test on this. So when we talk about social media, we're talking about the idea that we as a people can start sharing things more easily because of certain technologies that have evolved. Sort of first came the internet, then came applications that allowed us to share it first on like message boards and that type of stuff, and then eventually blogs, and then, Friendster, and all the way up to where we are today, which is, we're sharing everything. So it's this, right? Anything where you as a constituent, you as a person, a consumer, a maven, someone of interest can take some tools and start using them to get information out. Now, it's important to realize that this wasn't always the case. And it's why I keyed in on the transparency thing. Back when we were, pre-internet days or pre-widespread adoption of the internet, we had become really, really a placated group of people. The comparison is England right after World War I, where everybody was just gobstopped, as they would say in England. They just drank a shitload of gin, right? This is absolutely true. They essentially intoxicated the entire generation. They were tired, they were fed up, the Industrial Revolution had come along, they were impoverished, they'd been beaten down, and they started to drink a lot of gin. And this is not the gin that we think of, the delicious Tanqueray 10 or, whatever. It's stuff that's made in Bombay Sapphire is what I was trying to think of. It's stuff that is made in a bathtub that will kill you or make you retarded or both, right? So an entire generation got beaten down to crap. We did the same thing post-industrial revolution, but instead of gin, we used television. We used Gilligan's Island and those types of things, where we'd come home from work, we had been lumped into this little box. It wasn't Leave It to Beaver, quite frankly. It was a time of real constraint. It was a time right before everything went to crazy land with the hippies and all that stuff, right? Think back about the explosion of good stuff that happened from about 1965, I forget when Blonde on Blonde came out, but around then, all the way up to about 1980 when everything kind of went bad again. But during that time, amazing stuff happened, right? Because there was this horrible time before that where everyone was trying to make everybody Beaver Cleaver, okay? And not everybody wanted to be Beaver Cleaver, including Jack Kerouac and Neil Cassidy and Sal Paradise and all those cats, right? And so then we started to get into bebop and all the things started to emerge, but there was still this whole culture of people that were scared and they subdued themselves with television. This is totally true. TV dinners came about at this time, right? You don't even need to get off your fat ass and change the channel away from I Dream of Jeannie. You can have a tinfoil thing of some sort of edible food-like substance. It's not food. It's an edible food-like substance, right? And funnel that in your mouth while you watch this thing, and you've got 3 channels, and the only reason you're going to get up is to change them because remotes haven't been invented, right? And so advertisers take advantage of this. Advertisers go, okay, we've got these people, they're eating this edible food-like substance, they're sitting there, they're tired, they're beaten down, we are going to be their gen. We are going to make them feel better by starting to bang on them with advertisements. And we had nothing that we could do about it until the internet came along. And all during that time, what ended up happening was we developed what's called a cognitive surplus. Any ideas? What's a cognitive surplus? Excellent. You got all these ideas in our heads, but no outlet for them, right? And I think this is true of all of us, right? We all have stuff that we want to make, I hope. If it's your age, you've already been beaten into the ground where you want to stop making stuff, please do whatever you can to get back on that. Go on a retreat, surf with the porpoises or whatever you have to do to get back to a place where you decide that you want to make stuff again. If you have gotten so cynical and so beaten down that you no longer want to make anything, and I don't care if it's a drawing, a painting, a book, a business, whatever, but if you are at a place now where you are not making, drop out of school, get a backpack, and go get inspired. I'm not kidding. Get inspired to start making stuff, because we are at the creative culture at this point, and those that are making things and getting them out to the world will win. And this is what started to happen, right? It's the dawn of the internet. All of a sudden, this cognitive surplus. The internet was made to do one thing and one thing only. What? Tell stories, right? Start talking, telling stories and communicating those stories. The internet was a communication and storytelling device. Tim Berners-Lee and his crazy little geeks, and it was not Al Gore, decided that they wanted to have a device where they could talk to each other more efficiently and tell stories. And they created a platform to do that, right? And Mark Zuckerberg, in one of his very, very lucid moments, sitting next to old media guy, and old media guy says to Zuckerberg, Mark, tell me, how do you build community? And Mark sits there for a while and finally says, you can't. Communities exist. All you can do is organize them. Try, and you'll find yourself doing this. I do it. Try to avoid using the phrase, we're going to build a community. You can't. When you're sitting there talking to your bands, or you're sitting there talking to your business cohorts or whatever, and you're talking about, okay, we've got this great idea, we're going to build a community around it. Wrong! You can't. That implies that you're going to reach into somebody's soul and say, I'm going to twist this just enough to make you like this thing. They may not know they like this thing yet, and if you put it in front of them, they may end up liking it, but you can't make them like anything. I try and keep my Buddhist nature to myself, but you can't change people, right? I've already referenced Kerouac, so I'll do it again. We all have our Dharma, right? What's our Dharma? Not the Dharma Initiative, although there's a lot of that in Dharma. Our Dharma is our path. What path you're on, right? You're going to go there, okay? It is kind of like Lost. In any case, you need to find the people that are on that path already and say, hi, we have this thing and your path should come this way, right? But you can't make those things happen. Not created for commerce. Companies who have attempted to turn the web into a commerce engine have failed. Isn't that crazy? Don't we immediately think, oh, the web, let's just put a store on it. That's what everybody did. Everybody thought, oh, great, now it's just another way for us to sell our crap online. Well, the ones that have succeeded, it wasn't about that. Somebody defend that with respect to eBay. Because eBay on the surface looks all about commerce, yeah?
eBay really
It is the tool, but what's it a tool for?
Consumers are like connecting
About, around what?
around a shared interest.
A shared interest, and they converse about that shared interest, right? eBay was started, and this is not apocryphal, for dude's girlfriend to be able to connect with other people that collected Pez dispensers. Okay? So that's pretty geeky, right? I love Pez dispensers. I want to find others that do it. You don't just go, I have a Pez dispenser. You want to buy it? Let's have a transaction. If you find somebody else that has the same strange love of Pez dispensers, what are you going to do? You can tell stories. I found this Pez dispenser back when I was 19. You know, we have a bond, right? Amazon the same way. We can bond over this shared thing. This is why we put the comments up there. Really, why do we want to add these comments? What are we hoping we get in return?
Stories.
How so?
People that agree with us.
And what will they do?
Tell other people.
Yeah. When you put a comment, I don't know that you guys do this on a blog or whatever, what you really want is someone to respond to your comment.
Loyola.com, you sit there and argue.
Argue, and you say, that's a great point of view, that's a shitty point of view, whatever. We want a conversation. We want people to respond. It makes us feel that we're not orbiting this blue little planet just traveling around the sun once a year, disconnected from everything. We long for connections. We come online for connections. It's why you boogers check your Facebook every 35 seconds. It gives us our voice back, right? The post-industrial age, pre-modern, was all about taking our voice. You're all the same. You have no voice. You will eat your edible food-like product. You will watch the same TV show as everyone else, and we will design ad campaigns to make you feel like everybody else. You have no voice. There's no medium for you to tell a story, right? How will you do it? You write a book? You write an editorial to the paper? Too many transaction costs. We come online for each other. And you can read that with the somewhat scatological subtext if you like. And you can think of chat roulette, chat roulettes. I don't know why I always want to say chat roulette. We long for these connections. It's why Facebook exploded. It's why all of this stuff explodes. It's okay, by the way. It's what makes us human. It's what gives us empathy. I've said this before. It's why we learn to communicate as babies. Because we want to connect. We want to tell stories. My little 3-year-old will not shut up. And I don't ever want him to. He will talk on and on and on about everything, and I just smile from ear to ear. What a wonderful thing to look inside the little mind of a 3-year-old. Apparently, the mind of a 3-year-old really relates a lot to Batman and blowing things up. He has a little doll that he named Snowflake. Snowflake Cupcake is his official name. And we're very proud of Henry because he takes really good care of Snowflake Cupcake. And Henry came out of the womb looking for a stick to hit something with, okay? And this is troubling to me as a pacifist and all that type of stuff, and my wife and everything else, but he clearly skipped a generation and just came from my dad. In any case, we're trying to just kind of support Henry's non-whacking things with a stick behavior, right? So we're very delighted that he's taking care of Cupcake or whatever. And I'm talking to him one day. I said, Henry, you're a really good daddy for Cupcake. You really treat him very, very nicely. And Henry turns to me, sometimes I smack him in the face. So why, Henry? He likes to be smacked in the face sometimes, Daddy. So all social media does is help us to more efficiently tell this stuff. Could you possibly tell stories in the 50s? Of course. But you had to write a book, right? Having written a couple, they're hard. Take a lot of time. You wonder what the hell you were doing when you finished with it. Now, I got something to say. As anybody who has the misfortune of following me on Twitter, there's very little filter. It's coming right out. Twitter to me is sort of my id. Whatever I'm thinking at any time, there it goes, whoops, gone. Gets me in trouble. Social media allows us to connect our voices and tell our stories more efficiently. We talked about this. Industrial Revolution put us in this one-size-fits-all type thing. Gone, okay? It's gone. Commerce, which was once natural, became increasingly unnatural, and you have this gap. Think the music business, right? One of the things that used to just make me totally crazy. You know who never, ever, ever went into record stores? People who worked in the music business. Because they'd always get stuff sent to them. One of my favorite things about Chris Blackwell, started Island Records, signed Bob Marley, U2 or whatever, anytime he and I got together, we'd go to the record store. Because it got us closer to our customer. So few people in the music business did that. It's crazy. Oh, well, we don't need to go to record stores. We get the stuff for free. Yeah, well, karma's a bitch, right? So this chasm emerges, and we ignore the natural conversation that defines us as humans. Smoke Marlboro, be a cowboy. That shit worked. And it really worked because, think about it. Think about that little picture that I drew for you guys. Dad, beaten just to a bloody pulp, right, in the 50s or whatever. Eats his edible food-like product. The wife and kid go to bed. Dad's left there, and they run the Marlboro Man on TV late at night. You get why that worked? You're not beaten down, dude. You're really a cowboy on the plain. Damn if I'm not going to start smoking. Plus, they're good for you. Right? There were ads that said that. So, newcomers, right? Differences. Everything's not the same. Got to get into diversity, not one size fits all. It's about invitation, which is a really important word. I'm going to invite you to try my product. Permission marketing. I'm going to ask you to try it rather than putting this wall up or forcing you to. Right? Good is the enemy of perfect. Sorry, perfect is the enemy of good. Right? You got to get something out and then improve on it. This goes back to transparency. Don't lie. Don't lie. It's bad. Sometimes I think we have this pathological society of liars. People lie when they don't need to. Stop. Life gets a lot easier when you stop lying. It's a great Sopranos when the sort of annoying Dr. Malfi, right, talking to Tony, and Tony says, yeah, I got this girlfriend over here, I got my wife, I got this other thing, and she says, that sounds really complicated. It is. So you got to juggle all these things and keep one piece, don't lie. It's about getting people excited about their individuality rather than trying to package them into a wall. It's about organizing, not creating, organizing convivial, in other words, happy, sharing, communities in knowledge ecologies. And all that means is people with a specific set of knowledge and skills. Hey, I really like indie rock. Let's get together and talk about indie rock, and then we'll share it and pull some people into our little community. Because we're convivial. We want more people. Come to my party. You coming to my party doesn't mean you can't go to dude's party. You buying my thing doesn't mean that dude who's selling a similar thing sells less. We're expanding the pie. The internet is simply a tool for participation, right? Apple sells creativity, period. When you buy that new laptop, no other moment are you more inspired to write the novel, to do the song, or whatever. What?
Apple recently started suing the manufacturer for the Google phone for
Android.
patent infringement.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going opposite of what you're talking
Oh,
about.
no. It's a good observation. Apple's such a hard case study. I mean,
Don't patents kind of just restrict the
they do.
creativity and innovation?
They do.
And copyright more or less does the same?
Mm-hmm. And there's not an easy answer to that question.
I feel like it's going to start just collapsing. Copyright cases are not going to work anymore. I mean,
Copyright's in the Constitution. So if I'm with you that copyright needs to evolve and to change. I am also a friend of the creator and a friend of the person that spends their time developing something that is unique, and I think that person should be able to profit from it so that person can keep doing more. I also believe that you can profit from things sometimes by giving stuff away, okay? Apple, Google, I really, especially like in MBA courses, I try and avoid them as case studies because they're so unique and such, you know, and that's not to say there's not a lot to be learned from, and your point's really well made. You know, Steve Jobs, Google's little mission is what, right? Or mantra? Don't be evil. Right? Steve Jobs came out and said what about that? Anybody? Yeah. Bullshit. Those were his words exactly. They're at war, okay? And the stakes are very, very high. And we'll talk about that as we get into Enron and all that stuff. You start getting up in the stakes at this high, a lot of this stuff that I'm talking to you about, while not wrong, harder to instigate. Do I think they'd be better off if they would institute some of it? Yeah. But they don't, and it's really hard to find fault in Apple right now. Apple 5 years from now? Who knows?
Well, that's what I'm saying in the long run.
Look, I happen to agree with you, but it's hard to... The point I want to make about Apple is that they are providing the tools that allow customers to feel more creative, to feel that they can participate more easily. It's what the iPad is, it's what the iPod is, it's what the iPhone is. Those are all tools that invite participation, right? What they do as a company themselves is sometimes incongruent with that. Same with Google, by the way. I mean, the whole Bing thing, the reason people got upset with Bing was because it felt like Google was making you opt into something that you didn't sign on to. Right? And privacy is a real weird issue in internet age. It's not so much I don't want you to see what I'm doing or knowing what I'm about doing. It's about the process of getting there and making sure it's my decision to opt in on that. We don't like it when we get opted into things that even though we might opt into it on ourselves. So privacy is starting to change. But you're spot on, you know, and there's not an easy answer to it. So Apple aside, because they don't communicate, Apple keeps everything really, really secret, right? It's probably a Steve Jobs thing. But if you think about a Zappos, if you think about a JetBlue, if you think about a lot of these more emergent companies that just open their doors up. Did you have a question? Did you have a question? No? Okay. So the bottom line on this, and I think it's coming in a slide, is people are talking about your stuff anyway. You can, like Apple, choose to ignore it. Now, that said, Steve Jobs responds to people's emails. Not a lot, but every once in a while, dude will email, you know, Jobs at Apple and get a response. But people are talking about this stuff. And you as a company, you as an individual, can choose to enter into the conversation or ignore it. But you ignore it at your own peril, right? What you've got to do, and it's what I've been trying to get you guys to do all semester, are you willing to get your voice out there, right? To say what you think in your own voice. And what that requires is confidence. My man isn't here, but dropping your balls, right? It requires saying, okay, I'm going to put a stick in the ground. Say it in my own voice. Right? Show what you care about. Very, very different from being managed in a publicity type sense of the word. Very different from trying to go, okay, we're going to get some PR people and take this product and mold it and package it. And you know why it's different? Because that doesn't work. We know we're being lied to. And just like you don't being lied to by your friends, you don't want to be lied to by marketers anymore. What is your passion? Right? This goes back to lesson number 1. What's your purpose idea? Figure it out, damn it. What are you waiting for? It's not taking tests, apparently. Humans are great at doing this. Imagine yourself, one drink, just one drink, right? And you're at a party and you're talking to somebody and you get that thing, right, where you kind of want to go, do you have the other side of this locket? Right? We're good at that when we feel like this kind of camaraderie that's going on. Companies can't do it. We don't like being sold a bill of goods. We don't like phoniness. We don't like people making us feel stupid. We don't like being condescended to, right? We want to know what's going on behind the wall. Back to Apple, they're using that to their advantage. How many Apple rumor sites are there out there? Leading up to an Apple event, how much chatter is going on about prognostication and everything else? They're doing that for a reason, I would say. That they have found a certain sweet spot where people so love their product that they actually get more benefit by not talking about it because everybody else talks about it. But that typically doesn't happen. PR doesn't work. Markets are conversations. I gave a similar lecture over in the School of Communications. It did not go well. I was not invited back. No one ever talked to me again. There was all this scheduling leading up to it. So great, want to take you out to lunch afterwards or whatever. I give a lecture, crickets. Where's my lunch? How does this happen? All you musicians, how does your music start to get heard? How do people start talking about it? Well, values. Figure out what you care about. Find people that care about it. Go to them. If you are good, my man's not here, people will start talking about it. On the internet, it happens fast. How else to explain Arcade Fire? Yes?
I think sort of back to the point of like the PR kids and how they were just like,
I think it was more the teachers. Go ahead.
But I get.
Were you there? Were you there in that fateful lecture?
No,
Okay.
just maybe this sort of like relates to my point. It's like I think I look at all this and it's sort of interesting like the implications this has for big business because I think as as Americans like we see big business and like these sort of like huge like enigma corporations as like the heart of our economy and then I think I want that to change but I don't really know.
40 years ago,
What that means.
50 years ago, Silicon Valley was what? A lemon grove. Good, yes, a lemon grove. 50 years ago, Detroit was what? Thriving industrial world. Where do you want to be now? Silicon Valley or Detroit? It's where it's going. It's not to say there aren't going to be big, massive companies and everything else. But their influence and their ability to kind of trick us is waning. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. And for those of us that are trying to figure out how to make a living and get jobs and make jobs or whatever, this is real important. Because those jobs at those big industries with health insurance, those are becoming increasingly scarce and hard to get. That's why our employment's up so high. Go ahead.
I mean, like if I could ask your opinion, like is your prediction sort of like these multinational corporations, like what is, like do they have a place?
Sure.
Or like is it just that their place is sort of second to like these smaller, better run businesses that are working?
Well, I think they'll eventually be taken down. Remember, Facebook was started in a dorm room. Google was 3 guys. I mean, you can now, with a small group of people, take on, Viacom, right? So for me, in trying to do my job here to you guys, which is really hopefully to give you some tools and then go inspire you to go out and start something, I would think I would be failing my job if I said, now what you need to do is straighten your tie, let me look at your resume, and let's go see if we can't get you a job at Energy. When that becomes my job, it's really time for me to go. That doesn't mean that you can't eventually find a way to work with Energy as an employee or anything else in better terms, but Energy is our only Fortune 500 company, and I don't think they've ever had a profit. I guess they have at some point, but they're a horrible company. I think we can all agree on that, right? I think we can all agree on it. I mean, if we can't, unless somebody works for them or something. So again, we don't like to be lied to. We know when we're being pitched. You know when you're being pitched by your friends, right? You know when they're working an angle. Right? Kant says it is morally unethical to use someone as a means to an end. Treat people as an end in and of themselves. If we could apply some of this to marketing, we'd be better. this is really going to make your life better. Not kidding. We've all done that. You have to try this beer. You have to eat this sandwich. You have to hear this music. You're not doing that because you have some sort of pecuniary gain involved. Now, if you are getting a piece of it, the more sandwiches you sell, but we all know that there are businesses and restaurants out there that come to it the same way. I'm going to cook this food for you, and yes, you're going to pay me for it, but you're going to love it. I'm not trying to rip you off. And that can work for big companies too. Big companies cannot rip people off. Southwest has done a good job of that for like 30 years. Authentic voice, right? Marketing is focus, attention, caring, connection, honesty, right? Authenticity, honesty. I think honesty is sort of a theme for today. Wanting to listen, wanting to hear each other's voices. We come online for a voice. Damn, we're out of time. I'll figure out what we're going to do on this. We're going to need to move forward, but clearly I got a lot more to say. All right, have a good one.